going on? We're here with a mock draft today. Tomorrow is draft day, which is awesome. Very, very excited for that. I'm sure that this is going to be a very limited audience. I'm pretty tired today, so we're just going to run through this, try not to go too much yapping on each pick. Talk a little bit about the players, who I like, what I think might happen. When we get towards the later picks, roughly maybe 15 and past, I'm not going to worry too much about the fit, really just about guys that I think, either could go there, fit a need, and talk a little bit about the player. So we'll start at the top. Let's get this rolling. Number one is going to be Fernando Mendoza. There is a 100% chance that he is the guy at 1. I've already kind of talked about some of these players in a previous thing I did where I talked about each of the players, but not going to go into him too much. Feel free to just give him a Google search. But, I will be talking about players, but not someone like him. It's number two. Number two. It's going to be an edge rusher for the New York Jets. The question is, Arvell Reese or David Bailey? That is the question that everyone is asking. From what I understand, and I might say that a few times, from what I know, my information, just so it's known, I know absolutely nothing. I obviously have no sources or anything, but I do pay attention, and I do feel that after about over 10 years now of paying very close attention to the draft, that I'm able to discern some of the rumors pretty well. I'm going to say that it's going to be Bailey at 2 here. I would take Reese personally, but I do understand it. I think Bailey is just the safe. He's going to hopefully he'll get you, 10-ish or more sacks every year. That's the goal, right? Just a consistent, genuine pass rusher. Where Reese is obviously a bit more of a project. We're going to have David Bailey going number 2 to the Jets. Number 3. So one thing I'm not going to be doing is trades. And that kind of screws it up. But what I am going to try and do is just get guys in the right area, the right spots. So I'm very aware that number 3 might not be the Cardinals making that pick. In fact, I'm fairly confident they do trade out. If they stick and pick, or either way, Arvell Reese is going to be the guy here for me at 3. I know that there's a little bit of, there's some talk out there that he might fall down to 5 or 6 or something like that. But look, he is a premium player at a premium position. The Cardinals need everything. They need a quarterback. They need tackle. They need D-line. They need linebacker. They need safeties. They need corners. They need pretty much everything except maybe wide receiver right now. So for a team that needs everything and is not close to being competitive, to me, the opportunity to get a premium player, the guy with a ceiling that is sky high, at a premium, at a pass rush, which is, not only their need, but every team's need, feels like a good fit to me. I don't understand why people are saying, they're going to take the running back, they're going to take this, they're going to take that. To me, Reese is good value here, better value than the tackle, which I think is a bit of a reach. If they do trade down, definitely look for them to look for a right tackle. 4, we got the Titans. For me, I don't know that I love taking the running back here. Honestly, I love Jeremiah Love. He's the best player in this class, but I don't know about him going this high. But in this situation here, it does make sense to have him go to the Titans. The big question with drafting running backs in the top 5 is, do you have a team that is sufficient around that running back to make it valuable? Because as you know, their shelf life is short. Look at Zeke. Zeke was 4th overall. He was excellent for the Cowboys. Excellent. And yet by 2020, basically irrelevant. It's only 4 years later. And that's just how running backs are. I do think Jeremiah Love is a great talent. I mean, you look at Saquon Barkley, who was drafted in 2018. He's obviously still Saquon Barkley, and same with McCaffrey, and Bijan Robinson looks like he's going to weigh in Jahmyr Gibbs. So not to say that Jeremiah Love won't have a long, great career, but I think if you're Tennessee, the thing is they went crazy on defense in free agency. You need to get someone for Cam Ward, and I do think it's a reach here to go receiver. So I think they just say, all right, we'll not only take someone for him, but we'll take the best player in the draft, and hopefully next year, after this year, free agency next year, draft next year. You can rebuild that offensive line, get him a receiver or two, and now Jeremiah Love's in year 2, and you guys are ready to roll. Pick 5, the New York Giants. Shout out Big Colt. So this is the first pick, I think, where it is a real toss-up. I mean, they could go offensive line, I even think, but they could go Styles, they could go Caleb Downs, they could go corner. They need DBs. They need a lot of things. They don't need a quarterback, but they do need a lot of things. For me here, I think there's a really good shot for the Giants that a lot of these guys could fall. I think that picks 6 through 9 are kind of a weird mix of teams that need different things. And, like the Browns are almost guaranteed to take a receiver or tackle, Redskins are most likely going to go defense. So I think the Giants have an idea how this might play out, minus trades. And I think that they just go and get the player that they want, who might not be there. And I think that guy is Jordan Tyson. I think the Giants want Jordan Tyson. I think that they have him ahead of Carnell Tate. And I think that if that's the guy that you want, there's a very, very strong, if not probable / highly likely, whatever word you want to use, chance that he is not on the board when they pick at 10. And I think that they are confident sitting and waiting for whichever defensive player they might want. And I've heard that the Giants and Sonny Styles aren't much of a match, which I think is interesting, but I've just heard that that's not as much of a match as people think it is. And if that's the case, then they're going to be okay with letting him stroll, then they're definitely going to be fine, because Sonny Styles will absolutely be picked, and we will get to him shortly. Now we're going to be on to pick 6 for the Browns. The Browns are either going to take a corner or receiver. There's no doubt about it. The question, if you're the Browns, is basically, do you take Carnell Tate here, who is clearly the next best receiver on the board, or do you go for an offensive tackle? I definitely could see them trading down. They have a lot of needs on the offensive side of the ball, and it's a bit early here to take the tackle, in my opinion. I have those guys ranked closer to the 10 spot. So who would they take? So the question that I pose, and that I would pose to any Browns fan, is very simply, are you more comfortable missing out on the tackle and then getting stuck with whoever you find later, or same for the receiver? And look, there's a lot of good receivers in round 2. Off the top of my head, I can think of lots of good receivers in round 2. Like Devonta Adams, I'd say, is a pretty good player. And even more recently as well, such guys like A.J. Brown. But you know what? There's not a lot of them around 2 starting left tackles. There's just not. So I think you have to take a swing on a tackle here. Now, who is it? Maui Noah is a right tackle, and I don't think they want to kick him. So to me, it's either got to be Monroe Freeling, who is a true left tackle, tall, athletic, out of Georgia. He has all of the picture and the testing, but the tape is not great. He's very raw. Or you could take Spencer Fano, who is a right tackle, but has left tackle feet. Doesn't have left tackle body. He's not as big. He doesn't have huge arms, but I think that athleticism is really important in a left tackle. I think Fano's got that, and I think he's got better tape than Freeling by a lot. So I think they go Spencer Fano. I think the Browns say, okay, you know what, we get our guy. He can Spencer Fano can move all over the offensive line, which I think is obviously great to have a versatile guy like that. And I think that that's kind of the start of his range, that 6th spot, and I think that makes sense. For the Commanders, I think that they would be okay with Jeremiah Love. I think they would be okay with Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, a receiver. I think they'd be okay with a lot of different things. And they need defense. So here at 7 is a spot where I really do think Carnell Tate's in play. This is a team that, for some reason, I don't look at the same as I do the Giants or the Titans, because Jayden Daniels has already had a really good season. But look, they have a young quarterback. Jayden Daniels is still young. That defense was atrocious, but when you look at the Titans and the Giants, those defenses aren't great either, and yet I still think they should take a weapon. I don't know why Washington is any different. I think it's because they got to the NFC Championship game. Maybe you think they're a little further along, but the defense was atrocious last year. They were not good. So I could definitely see them taking Carnell Tate to pair him up with McLaurin, 2 OSU receivers, give Daniels weapons. I think that makes a lot of sense. In this case, I'm going to have them taking Sonny Styles. I think that he is the best defensive player available at this point. And I think that they absolutely need just a chess piece of a defensive player, which is what Sonny Styles is. He can spy. He can cover a tight end. He can be a traditional linebacker. He could probably rush the passer pretty well if you taught him if he wanted to. I mean, he is just an elite athlete. Elite. I can't say it enough. I mean, that guy's one of the best athletes I've seen in the draft, and he happens to be a pretty damn good football player as well. So I'm going to take Sonny Styles for the Commanders here. I could see that being Bane. I could see it being Downs and Tate. So speaking of Tate, I'm going to have him going number 8 to the Saints right here. For me, it was Bane or Tate here. It could be Caleb Downs as well, but I think the Saints, they have a young quarterback. They have Tyler Shuck, and when you have a guy that, they think they probably hit on him, he had a very solid season last year. They have Chris Olave, and I think this is a spot where you say, okay, now we go and we pair him up and we get him another receiver, right? Go see what this offense can do. I think, again, that Ruben Bain could absolutely be a good fit here, kind of a new era of Cam Jordan type of thing. But I think that there is question marks with Ruben Bain, as I have got into and we'll get into a little bit, that maybe make them hesitate enough to be comfortable taking Carnell Tate. So now the Chiefs are up. And for me, the Chiefs, this is very much either Ruben Bain or Mansour Delane. The Chiefs need an edge rusher. They need a defensive end. And absolutely, Ruben Bain fits that profile. Some teams will love him. Some teams will not. I think that they also really need a corner. I'd say that's pretty obvious since they traded Trent McDuffie and lost Jalen Watson. So they need corners. And Mansour Delane is the number one corner on the board. And I think it's a perfect fit. And in my last mock, I had them taking Mansour Delane. But I will share my very simple thought process. The Chiefs are arguably the best team in the NFL developing cornerbacks. They have taken guys that are not top talents and turned them into elite talent. A guy like Jalen Watson, who I believe was a 5th-round pick. And they've done this over and over and over again. High-level corner production. They still have that same coach, who's an elite corner-producing guy. So if I was the Chiefs, remember, they won't pick this high probably for a long time. I would go get the edge. I would go get Bain. Let him play alongside Chris Jones. And it's not because I think Bain is so much better than Delane. It's more because if I'm a Chiefs guy, Chiefs player, Chiefs fan, Chiefs personnel, whatever you want to say, I feel like you go and they pick at 29. Go get a corner there. And if you don't, who cares? Go get a corner around 2 or 3. They'll probably turn him into a Pro Bowler anyway. They're clearly good at scouting their guys. They're clearly good at coaching them up. So to me, it's like, why would you draft at a super position of strength? Which, maybe Mansour Delane becomes a top corner in that case. But I have them taking Ruben Bain here, the Chiefs, with that reasoning, which leaves the Giants at 10, who have already taken Jordan Tyson, knocks off a big need of theirs. Sonny Styles is unfortunately off the board for them. So who do? They go to the next best defensive player, and they take Caleb Downs. It's a perfect fit. It's a guy that's just a good player. He's a John Harbaugh type of player. It makes perfect sense. And moving on, we're out of the top 10 now. I think the Giants, by the way, with Jordan Tyson and Caleb Downs, there is questions about Jordan Tyson. Maybe it should have been Carnell Tate. If they were to go Ohio State and take Styles and Downs or, any other combo of those players, you could really make that defense good. And I do think there's a serious shot that they get Jeremiah Love at 5. I think if he's there, they take him. But you can't complain. And I think that the Dexter Lawrence trade ends up working out well when Caleb Downs becomes a very productive player at 10. So, moving on to 11. What do the Dolphins need? The Dolphins need everything. They need a receiver badly. They traded away Jalen Waddle. This is a team that could use tackle. They have a right tackle. Kind of have 2 tackles, but not necessarily a guy. At this point, if you're a Dolphins player, fan, whatever, like I said, by the other team, they need everything. You're automatically rebuilding. They're not going to be competitive in the next 3 or 4 years. So even if you're on the team and you're good, your spot could be, unimportant, basically, is what I'm going for. So I think Mekhi Lemon makes sense here as a Jordan Tyson replacement. I think a DB makes sense. They need corner. They need safety. I am going, for the sake of the mock, because I don't know who I'm going to have the Cowboys take if he's gone, I'm going to have the Dolphins take Mekhi Lemon. I think it makes sense. They're going to be probably drafting their quarterback of the future next year. They obviously have Malik Willis. I don't know what to tell you with that situation, but they're going to need another quarterback. And even if it's Malik Willis and they actually genuinely think that it's him or it's a rookie, they're going to need someone to throw to. And right now, they got no one. So I think it makes perfect sense to go and scoop the best receiver you can up right here. And honestly, for the Dolphins, they can go get their DB with their later picks. Cowboys, this is going to be super easy. In this scenario, they get blessed. They get Mansour Delane. He's the best corner in the draft. It's just, this is a spot where if they don't get him, they could be in a really, really bad spot. If he's gone, I think there's serious trouble. And Francis Maui-Noah absolutely could have gone 11, right? The question is basically for the Cowboys is, can you get enough offensive players off the board before they pick to make sure that one of those defensive guys is there? One of Caleb Downs, Ruben Bain, and Mansour Delane. Those are the guys, Sonny Styles will absolutely be gone, that you need gone. So, basically the question, will the Giants do offense and defense or just defense? So let's say the Giants split offense and defense, which I think is a reasonable assumption. The Browns are automatically going offense. The Saints could go defense, right? But I kind of think that Carnell Tate and Ruben Bain are going to be 8-9 or 9-8, however you want to slice it, which means that the Dolphins are going to be the ones deciding whether the Cowboys get Delane or not. If they don't, I'm not even sure. I'm going to be miserable. I would like to say that in this current mock where I'm at right now, I've only had one tackle go off the board, Spencer Fano. Not only do I think Francis Maui-Noah absolutely could go in the top 10, if there's trades, which there definitely could be, like if the Cardinals trade out, whoever comes up will probably take Arvell Reese or someone like that. But Maui-Noah will then go at 8 or 9 to that team, right? So I definitely think there's a world here more and more that the Cowboys do get one of those three players. I think it most likely is going to be Delane over Downs or Bain. But I do think it's looking better. But that's just something to keep an eye on. And if you're at 13 here, I got the Rams as with a 13th pick. And honestly, I have to say, just for the sake of a mock draft, I have to say I'm not as on top of this as I was like 2 weeks ago. So a little bit of just making sure I'm paying attention here. And honestly, Mekhi Lemon makes a ton of sense for the Rams. A ton of sense. In fact, it would be a slam dunk. And I actually do think they'll probably trade up. It's also very, very possible that the Rams trade this pick for a guy like A.J. Brown. I don't know that I think they do that. I think A.J. Brown's a Patriot, but right, they're going all in. So who do I think they need? That's actually a good question, and I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm honestly not sure who I think the Rams are going to take. I'm just being honest. I mean, receivers, easily their number one need. Actually, what I will do, and it makes perfect sense, is they're going to take Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver from Indiana, a guy who's moved up draft charts quite a bit since he has, kind of went through the process. Super fast, ran 4.4. I didn't think he was, but he is clearly. Breaks tackle. He's kind of like an after the catch kind of guy. Perfect for the Rams, right? He fits just like their scheme, just like Lemon. The issue with now is I don't know who the Jets are going to take because they need a receiver. So at 16, they pick coming up. I don't know who I'm going to have them taken. But I do think Omar Cooper is a good fit for the Rams. I kind of forgot about him there. Now we're going to move on to the Ravens, 14. To me, this is a little too easy. I think that they could go edge rusher. Maybe if Ruben Bain falls here, I think this is his floor. But they need interior linemen. And Owani Vega Owani is actually his name, is the best from Penn State, is the best interior offensive line by a lot. I mean, he straight up just best players, regardless of positional value. Give me Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, maybe a guy like Caleb Downs gets in there. I think that Vega is pretty high on that list. He's definitely my number one lineman overall in this draft, offensive lineman, but of course he's not a tackle, so not as valuable. But I think this is a great pick for the Ravens. I think any GM who gets to pick a guy who's probably going to be a Pro Bowler in a matter of position is a pretty easy job for them. We're going to be moving on to 15 here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think the pick is going to be defense. This is a team that I don't think thinks they're as far away as maybe other people do. Like, they have receivers, they have Baker. The defense has not been great, and they have like Bucky Irving, and they just re-signed Cade Otton, or else I would give them Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end. But I think they go defense here, and I think that since this is a team that's, first of all, I guess he's really the number one guy on the board right now, which is Akeem Mesidor, the number one defensive player. He's ranked probably in the low 20s. But he's a little bit older, 24, 25 years old, which personally is scary to me. But I think that this is a team that's okay with a guy that's a little bit older, acknowledging that this window is a little shorter because they do have Baker for the next few seasons. So I'm going to have them taking Akeem Mesidor out of Miami, the pass rusher. Next is the Jets. Well, the Jets need a receiver, and in this world, I would probably have them trading around, using this year's seconds to move up to get the receivers, or down in this situation if they couldn't get them. Because to me, the Jets' biggest needs are quarterback, which they're not going to be doing right now, then receiver, and I don't even think it's even a question that those are their two biggest needs. And then, to me, the best value right now, by a lot, would be Francis Mauigoa, who will, by the way, these tackles will be off the board. There's just no doubt about it that they will be off the board. I just haven't spotted, I think Mauigoa will be picked by a team who trades down, so I haven't been able to do it. However, the Jets are one of the few teams in the NFL that actually do not need a tackle either way. So I am not sure who I'm going to give them in this mock. What we will do is we will give them... They could take a safety, I guess. I would say best player available. And right now, you know what? Just for sake of this mock draft, because it's going to get out of whack real quick if I don't do this, I'm going to give the Jets Francis Mauigoa. This is kind of silly, but that's okay since no one's really listening to this. Because he's going to be gone by this point. There's no doubt about it. And with the Lions coming up, who I'll get to in 1 second, 17 is going to be a tackle. And at 18, I do think Dylan Thieneman is going to be a Viking. So giving them a player that there's no shot he goes there, I think kind of just screws us up for no reason for a guy like Mauigoa, who will probably be gone. So 17, it's going to be a tackle for the Lions. There's just no doubt about it. And in this situation, I think it's Caden Proctor or Monroe Freeling, and I think they jump on the chance to get Monroe Freeling, who I think has higher upside by a lot than Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor concerns me quite a bit. Big guy. I think he's better as a right tackle. I think Freeling is a true left tackle. I think it's a great pick for the Lions. And again, with these tackles, there's going to be a lot of trading around, moving around, because the tackle run is going to start, and people are going to start trading for tackles and trading up and drafting. So, yeah, 18, Vikings don't need a tackle either. I think they take Dylan Thieneman. I think it's a perfect fit. He's a white safety, replaces Harrison Smith. It's just almost too good to be true. And I think that he's a great value. I think he is definitely worth being the 18th overall pick in the draft. I think he is probably a little underrated as a prospect. 19, Carolina Panthers. I think that they would like a receiver, but I don't think there's one here for them, so they get kind of the next closest thing. He's kind of a receiver. I think they take Kenyon Sadiq. I mean, this is a team, now you got back-to-back Oregon guys going. The Panthers are a team that the defense played fairly well last year, and Bryce Young just, I don't know. You watch it. He's there. He's not. He's good. He's not. And I think they just need to give him as many weapons as they can. The offensive line is decent, and the defense is decent. They've actually done a pretty good job. So go get a difference maker. Go get Kenyon Sadiq, who, ran a 4.4 as a 6'3", 240-pound tight end. That's exactly what they need. And now we're back to the Cowboys. 20. So the Cowboys in this mock of mine were able to draft Mansour Delane, which I think basically forces them to look edge rusher here, because the Cowboys' biggest needs are linebacker and edge rusher at this point based on them getting a corner. And there's just no linebacker here for them to take, I think, for a good value. So I'm going to take one of my least favorite players in the draft, but one that I think will very, very quite possibly could happen, and it's going to be Kedrick Falk out of Auburn. I'm going to spare you the rant of why I'm not in on him. He's 6'6", 270, got great wingspan, super young. He's 20 years old. Apparently he's a hell of I don't say a person, I don't know him personally, but apparently from a locker room perspective, he's a good guy to have around, good, football guy, good personality. So it sounds good, but he has no pass rush production at all. And it's just not a pick I like. He reminds me of Taco Charlton. He's a good fit for us because he's a guy that needs to line up over a guard, right? He does not need to be all the way out rushing. He needs to be lined up over a guard in a 3-4 scheme, which is exactly what the Cowboys are implementing right now. So I think it makes almost too much sense, and I really hope it doesn't happen, but we'll give it to him for now. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, I originally had them taking a receiver here, but they've traded for Michael Pittman and Metcalf, and I think that's enough for right now for what they're looking for. Broderick Jones has a neck issue, And they've drafted, I'm blanking, Fortuna, blanking on his name, from University of Washington a year or two ago, an offensive lineman who was a Troy Fortuna, whatever, you get the point. And that's a guy who can play tackle or guard. So what I think they do is, with Broderick Jones kind of having a big question mark, you need a lineman. No matter who's playing quarterback there, you need a lineman. So they're in a prime spot to take whatever tackle they want at this point in my back in a way. So I'm going to have them taking, and I think that they would move Fortuna to left tackle and then have whoever they want here playing right tackle. So at this point, who's the best right tackle? I think it's Blake Miller. I think he's a true, solid right tackle. Kane Proctor will be off the board by now in normal mock drafts. Obviously, he's not here. I still have him on the board as a tackle because people will just trade up. But I do like Blake Miller over Kane Proctor. Proctor can be a left tackle. Blake Miller is a true right tackle. And you have to realize, if you're looking for a left tackle, no disrespect, but it's just some guys just are not going to convert. That's just what it is, right? So, moving on to 22, the Chargers. I'm not exactly sure what I think the Chargers need. I mean, I think they need linemen. Offensive guards would probably be a good pick, but there's just absolutely no one here. Justin Herbert took more hits than any other quarterback in the NFL last year. So they got a center from free agency. They have two weird guards. Then they have two tackles, right? They have two good tackles. So I'm not sure in this spot because I really do think they're looking guard. I just don't think there's a guy here for them. I think they probably go D-line. Khalil Mack is getting older. They lost Oweh. They could probably use another rusher. So I think they're probably going to look at the defense and take the best pass rusher available. In this situation, I think they have Cassius Howell as you know what? Not a huge fan of the guy. Cassius Howell is a speed rusher, and then I have TJ Parker here, who's more of a big guy edge rusher. And really, it's just preference, right? I mean, Khalil Mack's a heavy-handed big rusher, but then they had Oweh, who had 7.5 sacks last year as a speed rusher. So I'll have them take Cassius Howell as a speed rusher to go along in that scheme. Just add to the picks, add to the defense. I think that can work. 23 is the Eagles. They are going to go tackle. I would say it's almost a guarantee. In this situation, I think they're looking for the best tackle that they can get and just mold them. In this specific mock that I have right now, again, not the most accurate thing on the planet, I'm going to have them take Max Iachenor or Caleb Lomu. Yeah, I'll have them take Ian Atchorn. Ian Atchorn is a very raw. He's only been playing football since like the beginning of college or something. It's absolutely insane. He's a guy who I think is a late first round, early second talent, but just because of his position, tackle, and he looks like a football player. Wow. And I think it makes sense as a developmental guy to go get Lane Johnson's replacement. The Browns pick at 24, and I've kind of not thought this through completely, but that's A-okay, because in my head I was like, oh, the Browns take a tackle. They'll take Kane Proctor. Well, I already had them taking a tackle, and they need a receiver. So right now, the best receiver on the board is either Denzel Boston out of Washington or Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M. I think Boston's more likely to be the pick, but I am much higher on Casey Concepcion as a player, and I'm going to have the Browns take him. I just think he's a better player, and they're definitely going to be going receiver there. For the Bears need a center, but they need pass rush even more. So I'm going to go with the best pass rusher on the board, which is TJ Parker out of Clemson. I just think it's very simple, like a matchup, a player that's around this category and need. The Bills need a few different things. They trade for DJ Moore. That trade was god-awful, but they still could probably use a receiver. They need a pass rush. They need to stop with the Von Miller, Joey Bosa. I'm pretty sure they signed Bradley Chubb, which I have no idea why they're doing that. And they need a linebacker as well. So for me, there's no edge rusher here that makes sense. Maybe this is the beginning of the linebackers, the off-ball linebackers, even though I don't think that that's a fantastic fit either. They could probably use a safety. They could really just use a lot of things. So I'm going to have them take, instead of giving them what I would consider a reach, we'll be reasonable and say that there's not an edge here that fits, or is there? I'm just looking down the list real quick. No. So we'll give them, I'm going to say Jacob Rodriguez, who's been a big riser through this process at linebacker, off-ball linebacker. And I think that he could go in the late first. I don't think that that's a crazy thing. So give them a guy who's a little more athletic over a guy like CJ Allen, who I don't consider to be an athlete. For the San Francisco 49ers at 27, I think edge rusher and offensive line is definitely their two biggest needs. Who is a good fit for them? There's a few different guys I think could be a good fit for them. I think Cassius Howell would be a decent fit here for the 49ers. I'm just, I'm taking a look. And at this point, you know what? Trent Williams is old. Let's give him Kane Proctor. He's going to be gone by now, way gone. And, unfortunately with mocks, this is what happens when you have mock drafts, and I'm not doing trades. It's just shit happens. So a perfect example is the Texans absolutely need offensive linemen. And in this specific mock draft, they're going to get blessed with Caleb Lomu out of Utah, who is a left tackle. They just need linemen, right? The Texans just need linemen, and they need a tackle. I see them moving up possibly for one. If they stick and pick for the real draft, I could see them reaching for a guard because their offensive line is that much. The defense is fucking awesome, and they have receivers, they have a running back, they have a quarterback, kind of, sort of. So there's no tight end here. So to me, they're just going to take the best lineman available. With the Chiefs, they already took Ruben Bain in my mock draft, which means that I think corner is definitely an area here that they could go. They also could look at receiver still. I think those are their three biggest needs easily. It's just receiver, edge, and DB. I'm going to say that the Chiefs may still just wait at, corner, receiver. I don't like Denzel Boston very much. I don't think that the Chiefs would love him either. It's just not my opinion of a guy that they usually go after. So I'm going to give them the best corner on the board here, which I guess is subjective. So one thing that I won't get into too much, but Jermod McCoy has a bad knee. This could definitely be a spot for him, but the Chiefs just don't seem like the type of organization to take a guy who's got a really questionable knee. So I'll give them Colton Hood, who I think is very solid value here. He's the corner opposite Jermod McCoy, just a solid overall corner. Ran 4.44 out of Tennessee. I think that's a good fit there. And with the Dolphins on the clock here, earlier in the mock, I had the Dolphins take a receiver. So now I think they go best player available. I don't hate the Jermod McCoy pick here. They have time to let him, figure out his knee. And I think that actually is not a bad idea. The Dolphins are not looking to compete right away. And in fact, I will give them their Jermod McCoy. Back-to-back corners out of Tennessee. And we're at 31 now for the New England Patriots. And what do the Patriots need? They need an offensive line, right? They need pass rush and offensive line. I'd say those are the two easiest things. They have their pass rushers are just meh. And Morgan Moses is 35. He's this has to be his last year. So is there a tackle here for them? No, is really the long story short. They've missed the tackle run at this point. They've all gone. So I think maybe you look for best edge rusher available. The problem is there's none of those either. So they are in a weird spot here if you're them. Maybe they go linebacker, even though I'm not sure that I think that that's the case. So I'm going to say that they reach a bit for a linebacker, for an end, and they take Gabe Jacobs out of Illinois, who's been a big riser. I just think they need a pass rusher or a tackle, and in this situation, either you're moving back or you're reaching. Lastly, we got Seattle. Rounding it out. Seattle, obviously, is a great team. They could probably use to replace Tariq Woolen. They also lost Kobe Bryant on the back end. Running back is a huge need, I would say, as well. Obviously, they lost Kenneth Walker, and Charbonnet's got an ACL. I feel like they are more likely to go defense and just worry about running back, in a different pick. I could also very much see this being a place where a team's trading back in to get a guy, maybe a Ty Simpson, the Cardinals, or something like that. So what would they take here? I think DB, maybe best DB available. there is a decent running back here. I'm going to say that they take Emmanuel McNeill-Warren. I think he's a little bit of a project. He's the next safety in this class, but I think that that Mike McDaniel's obviously got his own defense, and I think that would be a solid fit. Just best defensive player available for Mike Macdonald. And that's going to be the end of this mock draft. Some of these picks, I actually like this mock. There's a few here with guys that just, whatever. Like Maui Noah to the Jets, really, who would be gone. And then Proctor to the Niners is also just not going to happen. He'll be way gone. But outside of that, I do think this is interesting. I mean, again, with no trades, it's tough. But thanks for giving this a listen. I'm very excited for the draft tomorrow. I'm very excited to see how it plays out. So, sounds good.